We're going to take a break now from talking about the Biden scandals here in Washington, D.C., and focus on the Biden scandals on our southern border. In fact, this is a scandal that affects our national security. It affects the drug trade and the deaths of our children. It affects our economy. It affects, well, hell of a lot. And he has neglected that border, as we know. What's the latest on it? Joining us now is Executive Director for the Center for Immigration Studies, Mark Krikorian. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
As we know, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, he's trying to do whatever he can to protect his state, even if the federal government won't. He's put up these floating barriers in the Rio Grande that have basically made it impossible for people who, we saw the videos of people just easily wading across the river into America. Well, now it's not so easy. They've got these barriers up. First of all, was that a good idea? Are they effective?
Well, I mean, it's as far as it goes, obviously, the border is 1,200 miles long. So they're not going to be solving the problem. But the point of them is to sort of break up the flow, force people to go around them where the Texas DPS can block them there, too. So, yeah, these buoys, what they do is they kind of spin. So you grab onto it, it just rolls back on you. And they're
Yeah.
used in a lot of maritime security, like harbor security things. So this isn't something Texas made up. This is an established thing. The Biden administration, though, has threatened to sue because it's stopping illegal immigrants from coming over, and that seems to be their goal.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to next. It seemed like a rather inexpensive and elegant solution to this problem. So why on earth would the Biden administration threaten to sue over this? Unless they just don't want the border protected. That's the only conclusion one can reach.
Yeah, ostensibly, it's supposedly a treaty violation, maybe, although I don't see how it is, because we have a treaty with Mexico that governs the border and water issues. Obviously, how much water can you take out and all of that kind of stuff. Except this isn't blocking the flow of water. There's no boats using this area. It's not a navigable river. And they're not on the Mexican side. They're in the middle, which is where the border is. So I don't know. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know that there's any case here. The real issue is this is an extension of what we're seeing on the river bank, where the Texas State Police are trying to stop people from getting across, and the Border Patrol, at Biden's insistence, are helping people get across. So illegal immigrants in the river, they're being stopped by Texas State Police. They're actually calling out for Border Patrol, saying, "Hey, where are you? Please let us in, save us, because the Texas people won't let us in. We know that you people taking orders from D.C. will let us in."
Mark, that's got to be so humiliating and debilitating to the Border Patrol. They didn't get into border protection to just help people and facilitate people to cross the border. The morale has got to be at rock bottom now with that great organization.
Absolutely. I mean, it's never great, but yes, it's very low. But my concern, though, is that more and more Border Patrol agents are leaving. They're retiring as soon as they can. They're getting jobs. If they're younger, they're getting jobs at police departments because they all have to know Spanish. They're actually probably the most highly trained federal law enforcement officers. So they're in demand elsewhere in, city, Houston Police Department or what have you. And the Biden administration is going to be replacing them with people who haven't known anything else. So the real danger, especially if there's 4 more years of this, is that the very culture of the Border Patrol will be changed, and from a law enforcement agency to basically Walmart greeters or the welcome wagon at the border. And that's a real danger.
You've told us in the past that many laws already exist on the books right now if only a president and an administration were serious about enforcing those laws. We don't need any new laws to protect the border. However, there are certain loopholes, if you want to call them that, with regard to asylum. Now, what can you tell us about what the Biden administration is now trying to implement in terms of a modification to its current asylum policies?
Well, they're supposedly tightening up on asylum. They're using the kind of pale reflection of a rule that the Trump administration put into effect, that judges stopped until the administration ran out of time and then Biden pulled the plug on. That rule would have said, if you haven't applied for asylum in one of the countries that you passed through before you got to our border, you don't get to apply for asylum. Because the whole point is you're fleeing for your life. And, it's like a drowning man doesn't pick and choose among life preservers that are thrown. He grabs the first thing he wants. So if you've made it to the border of Mexico and the United States, and you haven't applied for asylum in one of the 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 countries you passed through, you're obviously not a real asylum seeker. So Biden finally, after 2.5 years, said, boy, this is getting out of control. We need to have something like that. But one of our people is very experienced at this and read the rule. It's a long regulation, a lot of legalese. She said, basically, the whole thing is full of loopholes themselves that swallow the whole rule. In other words, it doesn't even do what this administration wants it to do. What we need is, among other things, a firm rule that if you haven't applied for asylum in Mexico or one of the other countries you came through, you don't even get to apply for asylum. You may be, you may deserve it, but you don't get to apply because you're just using asylum as a way of gaming the system and getting into our country to get a job.
Right. It's not about asylum. It's about becoming American, or at least coming to America and getting a job to send money back to your family. So in other words, let's say you're in Honduras or Guatemala or Nicaragua, you could easily seek asylum in Costa Rica, but instead you're crossing various countries' borders, or Panama, or you're going to Belize, you're going to Mexico, then you're going to America. Well, I mean, if you want asylum, just get it in your neighboring country and you've got your asylum. Here's the thing, though. When I saw the Trump administration attempt to put policies like this in place, or the Remain in Mexico policy that they did put in place, I was told an administration can't just arbitrarily do that. I was told it required full immigration reform coming out of Congress. What am I missing here?
Yeah, you're not missing anything. Basically, the Democrats were opposing anything President Trump did to try to control the border. And interestingly, the same people have sued to try to stop this Biden order, this sort of weak, pale version of an asylum rule that the Biden people have put into place. And there's supposed to be a ruling on that, at least an initial ruling at some point soon. So it could well be that the anti-borders activists will prevent Biden even from doing this lame, pale version of an asylum rule. And if that happens, then what are the Biden people going to do? I don't know. I mean, at some point, they're going to have to conclude, look, we actually need to enforce the border here.
But that's the monster that they created, isn't it? That's the monster that their party has created for the sole purpose of attacking President Trump or attacking those who do want border protection. They've created this monster who will accept nothing but open borders.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. And interestingly, this goes back a ways, but some of your listeners may remember the Mariel boat lift during the Jimmy Carter administration. He created that problem. He said, anybody who gets here, we will welcome them with open arms and open hearts. 120,000 people showed up almost overnight. But because Carter hadn't run as the open borders candidate, he was able to make a 180 and shut that down. Biden doesn't have that flexibility. And he's appointed all kinds of people who are, frankly, pretty radical in their anti-borders ideologies. So it's going to be hard. This administration is going to have a hard time, even if they wanted to control the border. And we might end up with 4 more years of this. And I'm not sure what the border is going to look like after that.
If it will be there at all. Mark Krikorian, thanks for joining us. We are, by the way, we continue to hear from the Democrats that they still want this comprehensive immigration reform. Is there any chance in this Congress that anything like that could even happen?
No, of course not. I mean, first of all, the Republicans control the House. And look, there's a lot of bad Republicans on this issue, but there's not enough of them. There's not enough of them to help the Democrats pass something that ridiculous.
Good to know. Mark Krikorian, Center for Immigration Studies, always good to have you, and thanks for checking in on the border. It's like it's been off the front pages for a little while, but it's still a major problem. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Keep it right here. You're watching Salem News Channel.